Hey, what's up everyone? Paul from Grindhouse Funhouse, and today I want to talk about Against the Grain, a documentary that's part of an amazing box set Vinegar Syndrome released a few months back on Black Friday. It's the Lost Picture Show box set, a 10-film collection of lost exploitation movies that they brought back to life to celebrate a whole decade of them doing the Lord's work by restoring movies like these and releasing it for us nerdy exploitation cinema lovers out there to enjoy. Against the Grain is a fascinating and exhaustive look at the lengths a Blu-ray boutique label will go to put these releases together. We get a peek into the inner workings of Vinegar Syndrome, their ongoing efforts by them and other genre film distributors to rescue, restore, and release lost and endangered films. You get extensive interviews with key figures in the field, along with a comprehensive look at the process of film preservation. So who do we get to meet in Against the Grain? Who are the talking heads? All 26 of them, yes I counted, that will speak on film restoration and preservation. Well, first and foremost, we do meet the founders of Vinegar Syndrome, Ryan Emerson, Joe Rubin, the co-director of this documentary, and Ralph Stevens. If you had no clue who they were before watching Against the Grain, well now you do. You get to hear their backstories and how Vinegar Syndromes came to be. They also talk to David Gregory of Severin Films, Bob Murawski of Grindhouse Releasing, Brett Wood of Kino Lorber, Ivan Paycheff of American Genre Film Archive, Lisa Petrucci of Something Weird Video, and Stephen Morowitz of Distrapix. We meet the people at Vinegar Syndrome involved in the day-to-day operation, restoration, and preservation, like Justin Liberty, Oscar Betcher, who's the vault manager and archivist. He's done quite a few instructional videos on film preservation on their YouTube channel. Lindsay Miller, Brandon Hubson, and Curtis Spieler. I mentioned all these names just so you can put faces on all these hard workers. So what are some of the things you'll learn about in Against the Grain? You'll learn what is the definition of a lost film.
A lost film is a work that doesn't exist in the accessible format that is meant to be seen in.
Having to go through many sources to Frankenstein a complete print that's worthy of being released. Basically, they're Indiana Jonesing this shit. Just full on being archaeologists. They talk about their first releases, like the lost films of Herschel Gordon Lewis, or Massage Parlor Murders. One of the questions that's often asked is, what is the difference between restoration and preservation? That's explained to us. Vinegar Syndrome sees themselves more in the preservation business.
I would say first and foremost, Vinegar Syndrome is a preservation company. We are one of the few film companies out there that actually has an in-house film archive. This means that we store the physical film in the building, temperature controlled, humidity controlled. That way we're trying to preserve the actual physical film for as long as possible, keeping it from degrading and deteriorating over time.
Bob Murawski of Grindhouse Releasing talks about his label, same with David Gregory of Severin Films, and talks about his beginnings before co-founding Severin.
My career in the world of boutique labels started before Severin. We had a VHS label in the 90s in England called Exploited, and it basically emerged out of collecting horror movies in the UK on tape.
We get the story of Mike Vraney, who started Something Weird Video back in 1990 and was one of the big figureheads in the business, who died way too young at 56 back in 2014. His story is told by his wife and business partner, Lisa Petrucci, who's been running Something Weird Video ever since his one-way trip to the great beyond. Movie Lab is brought up, which was
a very large, independent film processing facility, and was the lab of choice for a large amount of independent filmmakers. At some point, Movie Lab in the late 80s, early 90s, they had closed their doors.
I'm mentioning Movie Lab because there was this auction of a buttload of movies that were still at the lab, and Mike Vraney, he became the custodian of all them movies and was in charge of processing all of them. And there were so many that he never got around to check them all. Distrapix is now in charge of that collection, and they merged that into Vinegar Syndrome's collection. So basically, Vinegar Syndrome will most likely never run out of movies to release. We get to see the Vinegar Syndrome headquarters in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and we find out how many unique titles they have on site.
This is not going to be an exact count. We have around 4,000 unique titles in the database. That equals around 7,000 elements in general, which goes on to equal about 23,000 cans of film.
And all of this to me was super fascinating. This is like porn for film preservation enthusiasts. If there is one negative I would mention about the documentary, is that they could have shown the process of restoring a movie from damaged negatives to when I get to Lost Picture Show box set in my hand, but that's a small nitpick. You could certainly find videos on here that will explain all of that, but a small segment about it included here would have been nice. Other than that, it is essential viewing for anybody wanting to know the business and preservation side of saving obscure genre movies shot on film from being erased from existence, and bask in the passion of all these people and their love for this kind of work. It's only available right now as an extra feature in the Lost Picture Show box set, but something this good should have its own standalone release, and hopefully one day that'll happen. So that was my review for Against the Grain. Go visit all my socials at Grindhouse Funhouse, like, share, subscribe. More documentary reviews coming up soon, so stay tuned. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll say to you, ciao bye for now.